HOA Karen built a bridge with sponsorship funds on my property and tried to buy me off, but I filed a lawsuit. Every season, I eagerly looked forward to a quiet getaway to my little country retreat, the only place where I could truly unwind. Here, away from the city noise, I cherished the solitude, the sounds of nature, and the fresh air. But this place was more than just a piece of land to me. I earned it through hard work. Years of grueling labor, sacrifice, and careful saving made the purchase possible. I remember the day I signed the papers and got the keys to this small but dearly beloved place. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just an investment. It was a symbol of my success, my right to my own space, to freedom. When I first arrived here, the place was overgrown. The land was choked with weeds, the old fence was falling apart, and the soil needed serious work. But I wasn't discouraged. Every weekend I spent here, clearing the land, planting trees, building a fence, and a small, cozy backyard gazebo with my own hands. Year after year, I transformed the place, creating a sanctuary I wanted to return to again and again. Every tree here was planted by me, every bush trimmed by my hands. So much effort was invested in this place that I felt connected to it, as if it were not just a piece of land, but an extension of myself. Here I greeted sunrises with a cup of coffee, and here, on long summer evenings, I sat by the fire pit, gazing at the stars. With the first warmth, when the air was filled with the aromas of the awakening earth, I, as always, could not wait to go to my country house. Getting ready for the trip, I carefully checked whether I had taken everything I needed with me. Having filled the car to a full tank, leaving the city, I felt how the tension gradually left me. I lowered the window, letting in fresh spring air mixed with the scent of blossoming trees. Time flew by unnoticed, but as I approached the turn, I slammed on the brakes in shock. My heart sank with rage. I parked on the side of the road and got out of the car, feeling the anger boiling inside me. Workers were bustling about, machinery was rattling, excavators were roaring, materials were being unloaded. Where my fence used to be, there was now a wide ditch, and part of my garden was destroyed. Reinforcement bars were sticking out of the ground, cement dust was hanging in the air, and the rumble of construction equipment shook the earth. And in the very center of this chaos stood Karen. She waved her arms, giving orders to the workers, as if she owned the land. There was such confidence and self-satisfaction in her posture that it made me shudder. She wasn't just feeling at ease, she was enjoying this moment. "What the hell is going on?" My voice echoed over the roar of the engines. She crossed her arms over her chest, as if she had been expecting me since the morning, and lazily drawled,
"Why have you come? You see that work is being done here. Clear the area. The workers must have time to complete the project."
I froze, barely comprehending her impudence. "The project?" I repeated, feeling my fists involuntarily clench. "This is my land. What the hell are they even building here for?"
The neighborhood needed a main bridge, and the HOA decided that we could do the fastest construction on your property.
I stepped closer, barely containing the urge to grab her by the shoulders and force her to look me in the eye. "You didn't even ask my permission." My words sounded like an accusation, but Karen didn't seem to care at all.
The neighborhood needed a main bridge, and the HOA decided that we could do the fastest construction on your property.
I felt anger boiling inside me. On public land, maybe, but not on my property.
"You're being overdramatic. It's just a bridge. What's wrong with it? It will make it easier for people to get around, make the neighborhood more convenient. Especially since you're entitled to a small compensation for the demolished house and lot."
I stared at her, not believing my ears. "This is my land!" I roared, waving my arms. "I have to decide what to do on my territory. You destroyed my garden, tore down my house and fence, destroyed everything I spent years building." Karen shrugged, as if all this was an insignificant detail.
"This is development. You don't want to interfere with progress, do you? Your house still needed repairs. With the compensation you received, you can buy yourself some kind of hut. And here there will be a modern and comfortable bridge.
This is fraud, arbitrariness, and a crime, Karen. She lifted her chin and crossed her arms over her chest, showing that she was not going to back down.
Look, be reasonable.
Now there were notes of irritation in her voice.
People have already made contributions to this project. I have concluded agreements with contractors. Everything is already in progress. No one can stop it now. Accept it.
I took a sharp step forward, and for the first time in our entire conversation, Karen flinched slightly. "You made agreements?" I hissed, looking her straight in the eye. "On my land?" She hesitated, then raised her head defiantly. "I made an agreement for the project, and the land just happened to be yours. Accident? I'll sue you. Do whatever you want. Do you think this is the first time someone has made a fuss over something like this? Trust me, I've won cases like this hundreds of times." I slowly pulled out my phone and dialed the lawyer's number. The trial began a few weeks later. The courtroom was full of neighbors, members of the HOA. My lawyer stood up and, addressing the judge, stated clearly and loudly, "Your Honor, my client is the legal owner of this property. Without his consent, the HOA, headed by the defendant, organized illegal construction, violating his property rights." The judge turned to Karen. "Defendant, do you have a building permit?" Karen smiled nervously. "The HOA has the right to develop infrastructure, but not on private land," the judge interrupted sharply. "Did you get the owner's consent?" Karen opened her mouth but did not answer. My lawyer laid a stack of documents in front of the judge. "Here is evidence of illegal entry into private property. Here are photographs of the destroyed site, estimates of construction work, contracts concluded by the HOA." The judge leafed through the papers and frowned. "You entered into construction agreements without owning the land?" Karen pressed her lips together. "Well, formally?" "Formally!" The judge banged his gavel. "You sold a territory that doesn't belong to you." "It was just the fees," Karen quickly interjected. "Fees!" The judge raised his eyebrows in disbelief. "So you collected money from people knowing that you had no right to build?" "The court rules. The construction is illegal." The judge delivered his verdict. "The defendant is obliged to demolish the bridge at his own expense, return the fees, and compensate for the damage caused." A few weeks later, the illegally built bridge was completely dismantled. With Karen's compensation, a spacious house with panoramic windows, a cozy veranda, and a solid foundation was built on my plot. I improved the territory, planted trees, planted fruit trees. This time, I installed a high and strong fence, and I was sure that now no one would dare to encroach on my territory.